Welcome to this episode of Uncharted Entrepreneurship brought to you by EO Minnesota and the EO Rally happening May 8th, 2025. I have Dan Curran, from Chapters IO. Dan, go ahead, do an introduction for yourself. Tell us your day-to-day role and one of your passions.
Yeah, thank you for having me again, Dan Curran, EO St. Louis, previous EO member, but living right here in the middle of the country. I am the co-founder of chapters.io, and our focus is removing the stress and democratizing book publishing and manuscript writing. We worked in stealth mode in 2023 and in 2024 launched in January and have had just a year of exceeding expectations, a few bumps, but really, really enjoying reimagining publishing. And I believe you asked me another question, but I'll let you repeat that if you.
Well, a passion in life. What do you have any passions that you have outside of your work?
Well, I grew up in Oklahoma, and we would crawl our way to local ponds and rivers to fish. So that's kind of one hobby. But I have a lot of children, a lot of adult age children. So my hobby is, and I hope it continues to grow, is to travel the country and the world where they live in the next 5 years. So, and then I love helping people write their book and tell their story. So I've got a wonderful life, a wonderful wife, and I love my company. So yeah, I'm very busy.
That's great. Yeah, I am doing grandparent duty as my current passion as a new
Nice.
grandparent. So I'm very much enjoying that and learning or going to a new chapter in my life. It's hard to believe I'm 28 years old.
Yeah. You got started early.
Dan, Dan, before we get started, you have volunteered to be part of the Free Joke Project, and I'm going to tell you a joke. Just give me a rating 1 through 5. No negative ratings, please. And like always, the jokes are ginormously funny. So here we go. My horse will only come out of her stable after dark. She's becoming a nightmare.
I'm going to give you 3 grades: 5 for effort. I'll give you 4.5 for wittiness. And I'll give you a 4 for just sophomoric joke. So a good joke. No one's going to be
All
offended.
right.
No one's going to be offended with that joke. They'll probably pause for a second because it's got a bit of wit in it. So good job.
Yeah, thinking jokes. That's what I specialize in.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us. You told me a little bit about your background in the green room, but why don't you just fill people in on your background and how you came into chapters? Tell us your first
Serial.
chapter.
Yeah, exactly. So serial entrepreneur, came out of school, had my first job, kind of only job, and then started a company, always in marketing space. And I, again, live in St. Louis. So we had Anheuser-Busch, Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So there were a lot of big brands at that time, still some here. I slowly went to my passion of writing. So any industry has niches. Mine has always been around content, blogs, white papers, social media. I'm old enough that we were one of the first really to leverage YouTube back in the day and viral, kind of some of the early viral videos of that time. And then got to more geeky type work, more dense type content. So B2B content, technology companies, healthcare, bioscience. So really editorial excellence and thought leadership. And I've been doing that for, 15 plus years. In November 30th or 20th, forgot the date, of 2023, something called OpenAI launched something called ChatGPT. I had a couple of hundred writers, that company I had at the time, writers and about a dozen editors. And I didn't know what the impact would be, but I thought it would be something. I just immediately did what good entrepreneurs do. We just reimagined the space. We just leveraged the chaos to build something, what I think is really special. So we ran towards AI, and believe it or not, it had very little to do with actual writing fictitious or synthetic content. We used it to find gaps, to help organize, to use transcripts in a more powerful way. So we created chapters based on this evolution of AI and certainly trying to capture people's stories in a manuscript format.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very interesting in how disruptive ChatGPT was at the time, especially for writers. And people tend to look at it as only generative, but I think the analytical properties within it are more powerful than just the generative properties. And I think you mentioned transcripts. I'm able to generate a fantastic blog post from these interviews, and it's really been, I hate to say the word game changer because that's an AI word now, but talk a little bit about how that has led you to be maybe more productive and allow your writers to have some more freedom.
Yes. So, as I mentioned with my previous company, geeky, dense, technical content over the last decade. So, we were always transcribing. So, every few years, there would be an inflection point with the transcription services, right? They just got better and better. With AI, they started getting contextually better organizing. And so, if you use Otter or Fireflies or any of these tools, not perfect by any means, but it would organize it. So that's chapters. Otter and all those other companies have done is train their models to be able to synthesize the content, the actual words being spoken, and organize them in some form or fashion. We have done that too in the context of nonfiction books, nonfiction being how to or memoirs or big idea type books. So as I went through that process, I just learned a lot about interviewing people. Number one, learned a lot about editorial excellence. If we're interviewing a scientist or an subject matter expert, it's their words, so you can't change that. That's what you're doing. But AI can help organize, and what AI does really better than every human or most humans is gap analysis. What's missing? Where was there overlap? Where was there inconsistency? So it's, again, to use all these overused terms, it's a great co-pilot or assistant to help the editor. So we've just taken that evolution over 10 years and just are kind of trying to go where the puck is going as far as the interaction of AI and humans. But it's still, the words are still the humans' words. It's just got AI as a great cheerleader and helper.
Yeah, I was just at Shop Talk, which is a conference in Chicago this year, and I made sure I recorded every one of my conversations, and I was able then to run that through Whisper. I have a running on my local machine, and then give me a great just summary of what happened. And I actually made a blog post this morning or a LinkedIn post about my journey through Shop Talk. So I think you're right. It's such an important tool. Tell us a little bit more about the voice part of it and how I think that's somewhat unique. It's not unique in the industry, but I think the way you're applying it is unique.
So I'll commingle. You're talking about voice and tone. Is that what are you talking about?
Yeah, well, I think just getting instead of having somebody sit down and write a book, or I think what you're saying is that some of that is coming from their transcribed words that they're actually saying, and they're recording it, and then you're coming back and helping to write a book based on that.
Yes, absolutely. So that is one of our differentiation, areas of differentiation, so to speak. So a lot of us are not born with the ability to write 50,000 word novels, but that doesn't mean we're not wise and have wisdom and life experiences and a unique perspective. So what if you could speak it or give shorthand writing? And what if we, chapters, transcribed that voice recording and organized it? So that's what we have done. And again, to go back to my previous company, what we learned is that the scientists at a biopharma company were very bright, but a lot of them just didn't. They might be technical writers for academia, but they weren't, writing blogs or white papers. They were taking too long. So we would just record and transcribe. So that's nothing earth shattering there. It made sense. Let's transcribe it. But what if we did it for all these wonderful entrepreneurs that have really garnered a lot of wisdom and want to share that wisdom in the world, but they're busy building their company. They know nothing about publishing. They know nothing about Amazon or ebooks or audiobooks. They're just busy building wealth and building their companies. And so our value proposition was to go to them saying, hey, let's interview you. And instead of taking 9 months or 2 years or spending $100,000 with a ghostwriter, let us record you, synthesize that, your actual words, but also attach you to a human editor. And so that's what we do. So with our company, the editor is there as kind of the adult in the room to really collaborate with the would-be author. But again, to answer your question, yes, we are taking voice transcripts, interviews, and just removing that stress of writing a book.
Yeah, the stress of having to write. I mean, I think I follow some writers that say, they try to write 1,000 words a day. First thing they do is get up and write some words. So you're saying we should speak 1,000 words a day and record it.
I'm yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, I wrote a book during COVID. I found it amazing, very cathartic, but I found it that 1,000 words a day was hard. I'm just not that disciplined, I guess, or my brain would be somewhere else. And having the ghostwriter model in theory is great. It's like you really need some help, to get your words in a story arc that really resonate. Well, AI can help with that, and an editor can help with that. But instead of spending 9 months or 2 years on your own, or 6 months or 9 months with a ghostwriter, we're accelerating that process. So it's the cake. Our cake recipe is a little bit of everything that we've talked about, and we've packaged it again. Our number one goal is just to remove stress. So if someone wants to record in sprints, if they want to record all at once, we're very flexible, but we just want to make it super easy to be able to democratize and really get more people to participate. There's a lot of gatekeepers. If any of your listeners know, traditional publishing is very arduous, and it's got a lot of heartburn. And so we felt, you know, if we can solve that problem and reduce that stress and get more books out there, all the better.
I think that there's always this pull and push with creativity, and some people think AI makes you less creative, and personally, I think it can make you more creative if you use it the right way. What is your view on the creativity part of AI?
Well, we're just asking questions and recording, transcribing, and organizing. So I 100% agree with you. It makes you more creative. I think it's also a lot more ethical than I don't think I know than a ghostwriter. It for some reason they're getting a hall pass here, and we use kind of hybrid ghostwriter, editors who are do ghostwriters, but our editors love it because it's more authentic. It's your words. It's faster, and they seem to be having a lot more fun. So I don't really have plagiarism or anything that's not accurate in our vocabulary, because this is your words. We're just helping organize them.
I know that a lot of people start with AI and go and then edit it. What is your view? And I think your model's a little different than what people think of traditional Gen AI now, where you ask it to give you an outline. What is your thoughts on getting outlines or ideas from AI rather than giving AI your ideas and then you have it kind of flesh them out and then having an editor go at it? I guess I'm trying to get at, where should we start? Should we start with AI and a blank piece of paper, or should we start with an outline and give it to AI and then have it help us?
Well, I think even to take a step back, I think we'd all agree on a couple of things. One, we're still in the horse and buggy era of AI. Probably the technology, or definitely the technology, is ahead of us humans. If, as they say, if they never created another version of AI, moving forward, we still have years to catch up with what they've created now. So we're all just kind of poking the edges and getting used to it. And a lot of really smart, ethical, wonderful people use AI all the time, and they're all using it to brainstorm and come up with great ideas. And by no means are they depending on it exclusively to be all, you know, you know, accurate all the time, or to be a replica of what's inside their brain. But it's just a wonderful assistant. So obviously, I'm in the camp of being a good person, honest, don't lie, don't plagiarize, but use the heck out of AI if it makes your life easier. So it's just a tool that I think we should all use. And if I think there's a bit of snobbery in the publishing business, that somehow the people that get to the finish line on writing a book are somehow the smartest people in the world. And I don't know about you, but my mentors and peers that are around me, my neighbor, relatives that I think are brilliant, don't have books because they just have never, they've been kind of kept out of it. And so I think AI is a liberator for those people.
Well, I think in the past, and I'm going to say even 5 or 6 years ago, it was a very expensive proposition too, unless you wanted to try to do it all on your own. And that even then, it was very difficult to navigate all those waters and then find a publisher. And if you're going to self-publish, or I think that electronic publishing has certainly helped us bring down costs in terms of getting something out and live. But that whole process is very complicated. And tell us a little bit about how you've made the process easier in terms of how you present it, or how an author can help, or how an author can give you the material and how you organize that for them.
Yeah, so we we definitely try to locate authors who are or would be authors that are already in a consideration set. They've thought about this to some extent that they want to, but they look at, and to describe to your audience, and I'm sure you know this, there's a variety of ways to publish a book. Really, three buckets. One is self-publishing, and you can Google it or go online, and it's just you doing it, DIY. Another one is hybrid publishing, where you write a check and they will help you with a ghostwriter and help you market and publish, upload to Amazon, et cetera. And then there's the traditional publishers, the Random House and Penguin. Generally, you go through an agent, and if you look at their reported numbers, they're very flatlining. It's not a growth industry. It's kind of like the old record companies and so forth. So they're kind of old school, I guess a lot of people would say. So a lot of people go that middle route. They go hybrid publishing. They get some help, but they're writing the book themselves, usually with a ghostwriter. So that entire process is just, it's an overused term right now, but a word salad. I mean, just even me saying it, it's exhausting. And I think the great thing about AI in the next 5 or 10 years, that we will all be able to not say all those words and be able to say, yes, I can write my words, share them, and publish them. And in the capitalist market will take care of the rest. If a million people read it, or your kids read it, at least it will be out there in perpetuity. Right now, it's just like 1990s as far as I'm concerned. It just looks very, archaic. So I think if it's not us, there's going to be a lot of other people coming in to make this much more frictionless experience. Because if you think about it, with like 23andMe, if you do that, you can have your DNA you charted and so forth. But if I wanted to find out how my father, who passed away, thought about life, politics, religion, et cetera, well, I don't have any record of him doing it. But with AI and recording and transcribing, and it always getting better and better, we can now start capturing these. And that's where the name of our company comes from, Chapters of Your Life.
One of the things that I've heard objections to is the quality of content that AI delivers, and I guess I'm speaking mainly to it coming up with content for you, not transcribing. The process of editing that content, no matter who writes it, if it's a ghostwriter, if it's the person, or if you're hiring a third party content creator, that actual editing part of it still takes about the same amount of time. Is there a difference between where you're getting the content from and how then after you get the content you have to do something with it?
Yeah, that's excellent. So I love editors, and there's an old Seth Godin quote to brand marketer, to brands, to fire your brand manager, hire an editor, and it's kind of a metaphor, so to speak. Even more now, an editor is just there, as I mentioned, kind of an adult in the room with story development to capture some magic. We've had many authors that kind of held back. They weren't as transparent. And when they were recording, when they were being asked questions with our system with chapters on a weekly basis, they're meeting with the editor. So the editor is still critically involved and so important with the story arc, and also finding that magic of what might be in someone's memoir or story or life lessons that they want to share with the rest of the world. So I would say that I wouldn't trust, AI does a lot of great things. Writing content just by itself is like number 50 out of 50 for me on the list. It sometimes does it it's kind of creepy how good it is, but it'll probably get better. But having an editor there to collaborate with is so important. And a lot of high net worth people or just very successful people or people with just great stories we're working with right now do get imposter syndrome towards the end, even if they have a great resume, and that editor kind of helps them kind of from a psychological level to kind of keep sharing.
I know that the technology has increased how the models work have been increasing in how well they do, and they continue to grow, which also changes the output. And again, I guess this comes to the generative part of the AI. Do you see that shift in the quality or the ability of the AI tool to do what you want it to do, getting better and better, where you have less of that redundancy and or less of the hallucinations, let's say, because it's going to hallucinate no matter what. Is it getting? Are you seeing that technology getting better over time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting much better, but absolutely it still hallucinates. And again, that's the human aspect of it is very, very important. It's only gotten better. I don't want to romanticize or glamorize it too much beyond that, because truly it's you got to have both parts, the human involved and the machine. So it's just, again, I use all the terms we're using, a co-pilot, assistant. It's just an accelerant. And I think a little bit going back to your last question, and the reason why we're not anti ghostwriter. If you're an A plus ghostwriter, great, you're going to do an amazing job. But if we're the boogeyman, I guess we're replacing chapters is the B and C grade level ghostwriter. Editors, all the editors we work with, we try to hire the best we can. With all of them have bestsellers under their belt. Is it's again an accelerant. So we get to that 20, 30, 40,000 words quicker, 50,000 words. It's kind of front loaded because the questions are so good, and you're being, as an author, you're just sharing, you're pouring out, you have your wisdom about finance or about sales or about some trauma you went through. All this is coming out. The machine is helping organize it, not plagiarizing, just organizing what you said. And then the editor has something to edit really in 2 or 3 weeks from us kicking off. So it's editors like it because they have something to edit. They're not wait if they had to wait for a ghostwriter, there's many, many months before you get to that point. So we're able to, on the back end, the last couple of months or the last 8 weeks of working with us, process usually takes about 12 weeks. You can have fun, and polish it, and maybe stumble into some ideas in a random conversation with the editor and author that you wouldn't have. Again, it has nothing to do with AI.
So I know Chapters is first or very close to first to market. What kind of challenges now do you see as the landscape continues to shift moving forward, and you're going to overcome those challenges? And what do you see as the big challenges coming up?
I think we'll continue to see, I guess, naysayers or people that preconceive just look at AI as the chat GPT they use to write Christmas cards or whatever, in their work, and they'll look at it that way. And it is hard to, it takes a few minutes to say, no, we're kind of reverse engineering. We're just transcribing it, finding gaps, organizing, asking questions. So there's a, marketplace education. Somewhat answering your question, we're really leaning into being thought leaders ourselves on ethical AI. So we want to be, take care of it as well and make sure that people don't cross the line. So you're going to start seeing a lot of white papers and so forth on us. And I don't know if I'm answering your question the right way, but maybe it's just the years I've been doing it. I'm really got blinders on to what might be challenges, because the biggest challenge is people not wanting or not thinking they're worthy enough to share their life story. And I'm telling you, my life has been blessed just by meeting. We have dozens of authors we're working with right now, and the stories are amazing. And it's people just, like you work with or I work with facades, and they look perfect. And then when you really hear their stories, it's amazing. So my worry is just not getting enough people to get them to tell their stories. So that's what we're focused on, evangelizing.
We talked a little bit about costs in the beginning. And I know the cost of writing it yourself is your time, and the cost of a ghostwriter. Geez, I've been hit up by ghostwriters more and more all the time now, and it can be in the tens of $20,000 to have a book written. How is the cost difference going to help people as well,
So we
or is
are,
there a
so
cost
now,
difference?
yeah. So I'll take my publishing hat off and just put on my entrepreneur hat. So we went into the market, think, okay, what's our swim lane? Are we going to be premium? Are we going to be discount? So we positioned ourselves right now, premium to uber premium, the best editors, the best customer service, zero friction. You feel like, really you celebrate every inflection point working with us. Or that's our aspiration. And then we want to go downstream after that. We were going to come out as a software, but the software and AI is too crowded, and I've already made that mistake in a past life. So we're kind of this hybrid tech service company right now. So we're positioned premium, to push back a little bit on the pricing for a really good ghostwriter. That is minimum 40 zero, up to, if you're a politician or celebrity, 150 to 200,000. So that's the price range. All the time people are pricing 75,000 all the time for a good. So we're going after that market that really wants excellence, wants an amazing book that really tells the story right. So if 40 to 75,000 is the marker, we're coming in around 20, 25,000, very concierge, best-selling editor, AI, and again, that's just the manuscript, and we provide an ebook and some other bells and whistles. But as with everything, the price will continue to come down. And another thing, just again to put my entrepreneur hat, I also came out of the gate very vulnerable last year with all of our clients, saying, "Hey, we're trying to change the world here. There's a lot of R&D, experimentation. Do you want to go on this ride with us?" So everyone has been wonderful, and how we're treating, our, the process of our latest authors is different than it was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, because the space is moving so quick.
From a timing standpoint, I participated in a book. I wrote a chapter in a book last year, and we thought it would go much faster than it did. It was a traditional publisher method. Is there an increase in how fast you can get your book done by doing this way?
Yes, I mean it's a third less. So we're getting books done now in about 12 weeks. And a couple of things. Normally, to write a book, if you get the publishers or hybrid publishers to tell you, it really takes 9 months to about 15 months. Is kind of the other kind of dirty little secret in the business, is that half the manuscripts are abandoned because people get fatigued or frustrated or not as excited. So we're kind of bringing a velvet hammer to the party early on when we're signing someone up and saying, "Listen, can you what's the word, commit, sorry, to this 12 weeks?" And if it's 14 weeks, people go on vacations or whatever, that's fine. But we're really trying to get people across the finish line within that period, because otherwise, human nature, people, miss, a lot of the people we're dealing with are alpha male, females, your peers, mine, and EO or YPO. They're tough cookies to commit. So we try to get that done up front. And then also, when they're with the editor, when you're with an editor that's got a dozen bestsellers under their belt, that person has stature, and brings that stature immediately just by listening to their perspective. So putting kind of two alphas together, both with the same goal, seems to really work.
Yeah, I think the time frame in the book I did was with a whole bunch of authors. So I think it was mainly around editing, but I think you're right. I think that process in the traditional industry takes such a long time to get through. And so like, how do you help on then the put like after they've published it or when they're ready to publish? How do you help with art and those all those other parts that are needed?
So we tee it all up to hand off to a publisher or a hybrid publisher. So one thing I didn't tell you, most of our lead flow comes from publishers. So that if the supply chain or the customer journey or whatever of an author, it always gets caught up in the manuscript process. It's hard to create a manuscript. So that's what we're trying to make a lot easier. We immediately went out a year ago to all the publishers, raising our hand and saying, hey, this is a better mousetrap to ghostwriters. And I think it's more ethical and just an amazing. And so, we've had to prove our worth, but they are the ones sending us the lead flow as we are moving the author through that process. Again, let's say it's 12 weeks. That first 4 weeks is just brain dumping, excuse my language, vomiting from the brain to the computer, just trying to get all their wisdom and thoughts out. But starting about 4 weeks, the editor starts getting them ready to publish and market. And that to publish and market, as you know, it's the same 50 steps for everyone. It's just how much time and investment, but there's some universal truths. You got to have a book design cover. You have to start building your email list, get people to review it or beta readers. So we provide that as kind of a value add.
Last question. The industry itself has been, or I've heard it been said that there'll be a stamp on books, human written or AI written. Where do you think the hybrid model like you're proposing is going to fall?
That's a great question. That kind of goes back to us wanting to write those standards. If you go to Amazon right now, it's very gray. You're in two buckets with them. Then that's a good place to start because they're the biggest distributor of books. So what are their rules? It's something like this that you have to declare if it's AI written or if it's AI assist. And quite frankly, the AI assist is pretty liberal, in my opinion. I don't know what happens if you say AI wrote it. They probably it would go great and kick you out. AI assist is so nebulous. And if you want my opinion, I think it's to be determined on where this is going. It's easy for us because it's the authentic words of the person. Yes, we offer
Yeah.
suggestions and so forth. But as a consumer, I think, I don't know. What do you think? I think it'll be synthetic content. I mean, look at all the content we're reading on LinkedIn and all this. I mean, in the AI detectors, that's a whole nother story. That is probability. It's not actual. And that technology is what are you going to get AI to go against AI? And it's not very accurate. So I don't know where that's going. I think, I asked someone kind of different, but I asked someone a big thought the other day about art. What is art? If AI creates a piece of art, let's say like a painting or drawing that you love, is that art? So these are questions beyond chapters, but I don't. Hopefully, I'm young enough to
No,
see
that's
where.
good.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I believe that since, I mean, I believe your model, somebody's talking about it. They're using their words to write the book, and there's an organizer of those words, and there's an editor. I think that I mean, that's a perfect use of AI, right? And then
Perfect.
I
I
do
mean,
have to,
look at
I have,
Photoshop. Is a graphic designer not an artist, and they use Photoshop? That's. I didn't hear anybody bitching about it back then.
I'm sure they did. We're
Yeah.
not old enough,
Yeah.
although I probably remember Photoshop 1, which would have been on floppy disks. Um, I do. So, last comment I'm going to make is I do have an art project that I've been doing for a year now, where I take the style of a famous painter and I put a Jack Russell Terrier into the image, and then I call that
Love
some
it.
art. And you can't
Yeah.
copyright it because I make it with Midjourney. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of pushback from people who don't believe it's art and they think it's garbage. And my view is if it looks great, well, who cares how it was made, right? Like you said, if it's made in Photoshop, like just because you're having a computer help you to manipulate the images there, is it any different, right? Or if you take a real image and then you put a filter on it, now have you suddenly, I mean, it's all a definition of what AI is. And I think that manually applying processes with a computer is really doing what AI does. AI just does it faster.
Yeah, and my lizard brain is also, no, that's a great example. But I also go back to rap music and sampling. There's so much heartburn. I don't hear as much heartburn, now. I think because people get paid if they get sampled, some of their music. But there'll always be people, and I'm glad there's snobs in the business too. There should be some friction, some fight there. I don't need to worry about it because we're just trying to. I'm worried about some faux AI detector somehow busting something. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to get Thoreau or some other author and throw their book in AI detector and see if it comes out zero, because I have a sense it's just not accurate. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'll close with that. I do have a friend with an actual writing company, and when AI came out, their clients accused them of using AI because some of the writers are really good, and
Right.
the content looks really good, and it looks too good to have a human write it. What does it mean, too good to have a human write it, right? And
Yeah.
he said that sometimes they purposely have to just make some mistakes in the writing, which then takes out the idea of an editor, right?
Yeah.
I think the whole AI detection thing is it's never going to stick. There's no way that we can ever do it, especially running it through a human as an editor. What does that even mean?
Yeah. I think we just all do our best and try to be transparent, but it's a lot to think about in the coming days, weeks, and months.
Yeah. So Dan, as I close out the podcast, to give everybody a chance to do a shameless plug about anything they want, what would you like to plug today?
Well, of course, my company, chapters.io, I love these kind of discussions. So I'm just going to plug, I'll just be passionately selfish here. I'm going to just plug my company, but more than that, just anyone that wants to wrestle with these topics that we talked about today. So you can find me on LinkedIn at Dan Curran chapters LinkedIn. I'd love to, and my email is dan@chapters.io, and it would be an honor to speak to anyone regarding any of the topics we discussed today. Just not to sell a book, but just to get their perspective.
Yeah, that's great, Dan. It's been such a great conversation today, and I'll make sure I get all those contact details in the show notes. Dan Curran, the co-founder of Chapters.io. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Uncharted Entrepreneurship is a production of Content Basis LLC. Copyright 2023. You can find more award-winning content at contentbasis.io. And that wraps up the latest edition of Uncharted Entrepreneurship. Bold tales from entrepreneurial trailblazers. I'm your host, Brent Peterson, signing off after an incredible fireside chat with one of our intrepid trailblazing guests. Their first-hand perspective on conquering the unexplored wilds of business is just a taste of the rare wisdom you'll discover from pioneering entrepreneurs on this show. I also invite you to join me each week for insider commentary on the startup scene and digital marketing landscape on my Talk Commerce podcast. You can find Talk Commerce wherever you download podcasts or go to talk-commerce.com. I'd be grateful if you left a review and rating for Uncharted Entrepreneurship to help more bold founders find their way to game-changing insights that empower ventures to transform communities. This is your host, Brent Peterson, signing off for now. I'll see you around the virtual campfire next episode as we embark on another adventure into the great entrepreneurial unknown.